There is a home video of Robin Williams at a party. He is doing what Robin Williams always did at parties. He is performing. Voices, characters, impressions, observations, one after another, faster than the room can process, funnier than anything anyone expected, filling every corner of the space with something that can only be described as pure, uncontainable energy. And in the background of the video, for just a moment, you can see his face when he thinks nobody is looking. It lasts about 2 seconds, and it is the saddest thing you have ever seen. Robin Williams was the funniest person most people had ever encountered. The most alive, the most present, the most electric. He was also, by almost every account from the people who knew him best, one of the loneliest. And for most of his life, those two facts existed side by side without anyone, including Robin Williams, fully understanding how. Today we are going to try to understand how. Not to explain away the tragedy. Not to reduce a remarkable human being to a psychological case study. But because Robin Williams deserves more than the story most people tell about him. He deserves the real one.
What's the realistic thing about beer where you go, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, you've just pissed on a dumpster, it's Miller time. It's a scary thing, because you realize the first purpose of alcohol is to make English your second goddamn language.
Watch any Robin Williams live performance and pay attention to the speed. Not the jokes, not the characters, the speed. He moves between ideas, voices, observations, and impressions at a rate that the human brain should not be able to sustain. Most comedians find a rhythm and stay in it. Williams had no rhythm because he had no off switch. Every thought became the next thought, became the next performance, became the next character before the previous one had finished landing. There is a psychological concept called hypomanic creativity, a state of elevated energy, accelerated thought, and reduced inhibition that produces extraordinary output but cannot be sustained indefinitely and cannot be turned on or off by choice. Robin Williams did not perform his energy. He was his energy, and the performance was what happened when that energy had an audience to receive it. The problem, and this is the part that almost nobody talks about, is what happens when the audience leaves.
A bottle of which after you can actually see vapor trails as people pass you. How you doing? Well, you've gone too far, and you must pay your dues. This is why I had to give up alcohol, because you have to pay the next day. Pray, dear Lord, please don't hurt me now. There you are lying in bed, and you feel like the scene from the movie The Fly going, help me, help me. The entire room is spinning like a roulette wheel. Place your bets, place your bets. And there's the old toilet in the corner going, talk to me. And you try and walk slowly, but you feel like the elephant man in a car wash. There's things in front of you like the stuff that scares the water off cars. You can't do it. Even your dog's looking at you like, you wouldn't believe the shit you said to me last night.
Watch any Robin Williams interview carefully, and you will notice something that takes time to see. He never stops. Not just in the comedic sense. In every sense. He is always scanning, always processing, always finding the next angle, the next voice, the next observation. Even in his quieter moments, and there are some, in the longer interviews, in the more serious conversations, you can see the engine running underneath. There is a psychological concept called performance as regulation, where the act of performing becomes the primary mechanism for managing internal states that feel unmanageable any other way. For Robin Williams, performing was not just what he did. It was how he stayed okay. The laughter in the room was not just the reward for the performance. It was the evidence that the performance was working, that the energy had somewhere to go, that he was, for the duration of the applause, enough. Watch his face in the moments right after a big laugh lands. There is something there that goes beyond satisfaction or pride. It looks like relief.
Because just as there can be overweight people or underweight people by the odds tipping, there can be an audience of clods and dunderheads.
Especially for comedians, sometimes they look upon them as lower than, It's kind of like Cro-Magnons. They kind of, oh, look, there's the geek boy.
Yeah.
And they treat them and they yell, they scream stuff. They think, most people when they get a little bit drunk and they see a comedian will start thinking, well, he's got to learn to deal with it. And they'll just yell stuff, especially conventions of people playing for conventions. I played a private party once at this man's pool, and the people were real drunk, and they thought it was, throwing stuff again once, and thought that was big time. It was like kind of like being a monkey on a string, and that was very strange.
Yeah, at times like that, you understand that Marceau piece that he does that's so frightening, where the man is caught in the comic mask.
Yeah, I used to do a thing about that too, called Celebrity, about this man signing autographs with a big smile, goes home and takes off like...
And as a monster. Really.
Yeah, it's like a whole bizarre thing, because sometimes maintaining that is a very scary thing.
And not being able to get out of it.
You're not easy on yourself in this show, are you?
No. As an alcoholic, I talk about, some warning signs, like DUIs in a cul-de-sac, things like that. The idea of, have you been through it, to talk about it and see, this is what you go through. Heart surgery, alcoholism. I went to rehab in wine country just to keep my options open.
There are interviews, rare ones, usually late in his career, where Robin Williams slows down, where he talks about depression not as something that happened to him in the past, but as something he lived with continuously, where he describes the silence after a performance not as rest, but as a kind of falling. He once described depression as a wounded inner child, something small and frightened that the performance kept at bay but never healed. There is a psychological concept called the helper's paradox, where the person most committed to making others feel better is often the person least able to receive that care for themselves. The energy flows outward so completely and so continuously that the inward direction becomes almost inaccessible. Robin Williams spent 50 years making the world feel better, and by almost every account from the people closest to him, he found it genuinely difficult to believe that the world wanted to do the same for him. Not because people didn't try, because the part of him that needed it had been performing for so long that it had forgotten how to just receive.
Getting into it, no.
Was
I
it a
remember
gradual thing? Or?
It was very gradual. It was just, and you're off, you're off and running. And then the alcohol kicked in and decided, and then eventually you realized, I can't. I remember stopping it on my own because I was about to have a son. And I didn't want to be coked up going, hey, Dad loves you. Here's a little switch. I'm going to throw up on you. You don't want to be like that. And I had to kind of go, but I did it alone. So that was why it was, 20 years without any help.
Here is what almost nobody talks about when they talk about Robin Williams. He grew up largely alone. His father was a Ford executive who worked constantly. His mother was a former model who was often socially engaged and rarely home. He was raised in a large house in a wealthy suburb with a rotating cast of housekeepers and almost no consistent childhood companions. He has described himself as a lonely kid who discovered that making people laugh was the fastest way to make them stay. There is a psychological concept called performance bonding, where a child who lacks secure attachment learns to generate connection through entertainment. The laughter becomes the substitute for the closeness that was not reliably available. And because laughter works, because it does produce connection, does produce warmth, does make people stay, the pattern becomes self-reinforcing until it is the only pattern available. Robin Williams did not become a performer because he was funny. He became a performer because performance was the only reliable way he knew to feel less alone. And the tragedy, the real tragedy, not the one most people focus on, is that the very thing that connected him to the world also kept the world at exactly the distance the performance required. Close enough to receive the laughter, too far away to reach the person underneath it.
All right, 10-year-old Robin Williams, you were in Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
When did you discover girls?
At that one issue of National Geographic, it was a great copy, the New Guinea edition. And it's very difficult
I
to
actually
find
remember that, seriously.
You do, yeah, there was slinky breasts. It's very difficult, you're going, I'm looking, oh, whoa, what was your first sexual experience? Oh, no, gosh, well, let's not go there. But yeah, that was, but to really discover them when I was about 13, I remember that there was a dance. I went through puberty, actually, it was like 7th, 8th grade. 9th grade was at an all-boys private school, and they would have these dances where they would bring girls in, and it was like some sort of strange movie where, it's all of a sudden you're like, I wish to dance with you. I hope you don't mind if I hold you close and not move my upper body.
It's kind of like the Chicken Ranch, you get to pick one.
Oh, God. Yeah, that one.
I like them.
In 2014, Robin Williams was diagnosed posthumously with Lewy body dementia, a neurological disease that causes hallucinations, paranoia, profound confusion, and a terror that cannot be reasoned with. His wife, Susan Schneider, has described the last year of his life as watching a man fight a battle that nobody around him could see, against an enemy that had no name yet, with a mind that had spent 50 years in overdrive suddenly losing the ability to trust its own signals. The man who had spent his entire life performing his way through the darkness found himself in a darkness that performance could not reach. What happened next was not a failure of will, or a failure of love, or a failure of the people around him. It was a disease, taking a man, in the cruelest way a disease can take someone. Robin Williams once said, "You're only given a little spark of madness. You mustn't lose it." He never lost it. He gave it to every room he ever walked into, every performance he ever gave, every person who ever laughed until they cried and felt, for a moment, less alone in the world. That spark was real. The man behind it was real. And he deserved more time to just be that man without the performance. We hope he knew, somewhere in the quiet moments, how much the world loved him back. If you or someone you know is struggling, please reach out to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988. You are not alone. Next video, we return to someone whose power is entirely different. Someone who never needed to perform to fill a room, who never needed the laughter as evidence of enough. Someone whose stillness has always been their strength. You already know who it is.
People want you to be a certain way. Sometimes you can't help but be depressed.
You're not easy on yourself, are you?
No, as an alcoholic, I talk about, some warning signs, like DUIs in a cul-de-sac, things like that, alcoholism. I went to rehab in wine country just to keep my options open.
And there's a voice that tells alcoholics we can drink. It's the same voice you hear if you can go up to the top of a very large building and you look over the side. There's a little voice that goes, jump.
A couple of years of just thinking I can do it on my own, and you can't. That's the bottom line. I can do this, I can stop. And you really think you can, and then you realize, I need help.
So you were dry for 20 years?
Yes.
Why did you fall off?
I was in a little town in Alaska. It wasn't the end of the world, but you can see it from there. And it was like all of a sudden I thought, I could drink. It's also that same thought you have if you look off a large building and go, I can fly.
How vividly can you remember falling into the trap in the first place with alcohol?
I don't vividly remember anything. There is this thing for alcoholics called a blackout, which isn't really a blackout. It's more like sleepwalking with activities.
You're up, but when you crash, even the devil's going, dude, this is not going to go well.
There'll be those nights and you'd be like, I'm gonna die! I'm gonna die! And then you wake up the next morning, I didn't die! Let's try it again! This is insanity,
But more importantly, my son. I think that was the beginning of kind of, thinking you've got a responsibility and it's more than you.
Is there a sadness about these past 2 years then?
Yeah, there's a sadness, and then you have to go, there's also hope. Sadness, it's always like, you wish they hadn't happened, but they did. And the purpose is to make you different.